So, we are in a business of steel, which is really for building the India. That's what is the whole objective of our business. One of the things, as the country grows, one of the fundamental thing which it requires is steel. And most countries, as they develop, you will find that they are measured in terms of what is the steel consumption in the country. So India is one of those which are still on a very low level. We are somewhere around 65, 67 kg per capita steel consumption. Whereas in most of the developed world, or the world average will be somewhere close to about 400 kg. So there is a wide gap between where we are vis-a-vis where we want to go. So our motive, our objective is to make steel within India, which is something one of the best quality in the world, to make sure that this is something which goes in building of the entire nation. Now, if you look at steel, technically steel, one could say, is a commodity. A lot of people have this thing in mind that steel is a commodity. Our view is very, very different. We believe that steel of right quality is not just a commodity, it's something which is very different. It's a brand, it is something what, the quality which is, for example, take the case of TMT. Now TMT is something which is rebars, which are Saria, people call it Saria and so on. A lot of times you will find Sarias of quality which is really not, anything worthwhile. We create something which is absolutely super suitable for earthquake resistance and so on. So, there is a great deal of difference between the typical steel which is available in terms of the poor quality material vis-a-vis what we are able to produce. And so therefore this is not just a philosophy for TMT, but it is for the entire the supply chain, whether it is a flat product or it is a long product. And that is how we have created this brand called Panther brand. So you will find that in India, Panther brand is something which is very well respected, simply because of our quality considerations which we have within the country. As far as, if you look at the growth of this company, Jindal Steel and Power Limited, we used to be one of the highest value earner in the country. In the last few years, when the cycles had gone down and we had also created certain assets within Orissa, and then of course at that point of time the coal mines were all taken away from various companies based on the judgment. So we also had that difficulty, but we have so much of grit that we came back to great strength now, and we are again back into our profits. So we have rebuilt the entire production line, completely a new line compared to what we had put up earlier. Earlier we had put up a new product. We are making a system in which the idea was to use only the indigenous coal and convert that into gas and make DRI out of that. Now we subsequently totally have changed that. We have gone for a totally different line, and that's how we have created this new complex, and that's how we have become more profitable. So that's something which is for our business, which we just wanted to tell you. I also want to add here that the promoter of the company, Mr. Naveen Jindal, who is also a parliamentarian, he is a businessman, he is a sports person. He has got so much of grit that despite all those difficult times which he had, he has continued really pushing for it, and that's the result which we see. As far as I am concerned, I am in steel business for more than 40 years now, and whatever success I have, primarily I think I owe it to the way that I manage the people, because ultimately it is the people who are really responsible for giving you the proper business. We are absolutely right. Although steel is very well known to be a cyclical industry, steel has gone through different cycles which have not been so good. For example, 2008, immediately after 2008 when that crisis hit, so most of the companies had that difficulty. The recent difficulty was extremely difficult for Indian steel industry, and for us it was even more, because that was the time when we had spent very heavily in setting up this Angul asset, and that asset was not able to operate properly simply because the coal mines were taken away. So for us it was a double whammy. We had the steel business anyway was down, and for us we after setting up this expensive asset and you are not able to utilize that asset, it was a problem which is there. So in such a situation, there are only few things which we really can do. One is that you realize that the people who are there along with you, you need to make sure that you carry them very well, because often sometimes it can happen that if the going is very tough, then some of the people may feel that, what's going to happen to this company, should we continue with this and so on. So the good part is that the people as a whole, the entire organization really understood this. Everybody took up that challenge. They understood that this is something which is a temporary phenomena. There is a company which has got a great spirit, and that spirit is something which will make sure that it comes back. So first thing is, you take care of the people. You really make sure that you communicate it to them as to what are the issues which are there. Then you create your own strategy in terms of, you can't just sit back and say that, this is a plant which we have put, and we don't know what to do it. So therefore you create a strategy that what is the other line which you want to pursue. We decided that we want to go for a blast furnace route which is there. It was not easy because we did this without taking any additional bank loan, and that's something which was only based on our internal cash accrual which was happening. Based on that, we cut down all our expenses. The owner had to sell their planes and all the other things which are the other fringe assets which we have. All the non-core assets we got out of. So therefore you find out what is the best way of raising that cash without really affecting the core business. So that's another thing which you do. We also looked at our cash management, the working capital management, because in such a scenario, working capital becomes one of the fundamental things. So how you manage your cash, how you make sure that your cash cycle velocity really becomes very high. So you manage your people, you manage your business in terms of, you determine that what route you really want to follow. Then you manage your cash working capital, and you persist. That's what is the most important. You don't give up, you just persist. As I was saying, first thing is that you need to make sure that the people are with you and you have the right people. This is the first fundamental which is right. And how people work with you? They work with you because they start trusting you. Once they trust you that this is something which is, if I am talking about something, or if the leadership is talking about something, they do start believing that this is what they mean. So therefore you need to create that trust in your employees, in your customers, in your suppliers. In difficult times, there were suppliers who were not paid for quite some time, and they still stood with us because they understood that here is a company which is trustworthy and they will get all their payment, and that's how they're getting their payment. So therefore, you really create that kind of a trust with the people all around. In the entire, the 360 degree of the business, you would create that trust. So first thing is you do that. The second is that you don't give up, never show your weakness, never be in a helpless situation where you think that you don't know what's going to happen. You have to be having the right strategy and making sure that that strategy is communicated to the people with full spirit behind it. So therefore that's how we really do the business. So first thing is, branding is not doesn't happen just by advertisements or anything. First thing is that you need to have the right quality of the material, because if your material is not of the right quality, you can succeed today but tomorrow you will not succeed. So first thing is to make sure that your product quality is one of the best. So that we have achieved simply by having one of the world's best mills which we have. We have really one of the top class mills which is there. The second thing is the process which you follow. You want to make sure that your quality systems, your processes are such that whatever material is actually going to the market, they are really one of the top class. So today, even though we have a lot of competition, you are absolutely correct that we have a lot of competition, but in terms of quality, we are really considered to be one of the top class in the entire country. Let me also tell you this, we are not only operating in this country, we are also operating beyond this country. For example, in Oman, we have a 2 million ton plant where we are making also TMT. And there also, it is the same brand which is being used. And in a very short period of time, in Oman, we became number 1 supplier. And in UAE, which has got very strong players, we became number 2 supplier in a very short period of time. So that has happened simply because the product quality has been very good. The communication to the customer, the dealing with the customer, the honesty in your dealing, the trust factor which I mentioned, all these go into building the brand. And of course, in addition to that, obviously you have the advertisements above the line, below the line. Those are the things which are, technically you advertise. But more important is to create the trust in the minds of the customers that here is a brand, here is a company which is with us for all time to come. That is what is most important. So it is always a tough call, for most people who work in a steel plants like thing, it is always a tough call. As I told you, I have spent almost 40 years plus in the steel business. And throughout, I suppose, in the entire journey, it has always been a tough call to do that. But in that, it's mostly a mindset issue. If you are so pressured by the situation that you don't know how to manage that, then even in the night you will not be able to sleep. So you need to, one needs to separate the work life very, very clearly. When you come back home, you might have an occasional calls, etc., but that doesn't prevent you from mixing with the children, having the social life, spending time with your wife, the spouses. So that's something which you need to work on. It is also important to take the time off sometimes and go out and for example, I'm also a sports person. I used to play tennis, now I play golf. So something which is, these are the things which really keep me away from those stresses, and it's always, one has to really learn how to manage that.